YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. And today we got some more rankings for the 2020 NFL season, going through the best offensive coaches in the NFL for this upcoming season. So this could be an offensive-minded head coach or an offensive coordinator. We got top 10 here, plus one sleeper to look out for. We'll do the same thing for defense, and we're going to start ranking players by position, do a full 32 on those, and some unit rankings, maybe receiver cores, pass rush cores, all kinds of rankings like those. So hopefully you can stick with us. Click that like button, subscribe to both of our channels. Really appreciate the support recently. We've been really growing thanks to you guys, so let's keep on grinding here. You're going to want to follow that Twitter for updates, always talking football, and you kind of can participate in future videos and podcasts by following our Twitter and interacting with us there. We have a podcast as well. Like I mentioned, there's a link down below, description, comments for anything that you may need. Let's start with the sleeper offensive coach here. Again, these could be head coaches or offensive coordinators, so top 10 plus one sleeper. So the sleeper's going to be Cliff Kingsbury, and I was tempted to almost put him in the top 10, and I think he'll be there after this year. And people may be surprised by that, but again, it's not head coach rankings. We're just looking at offense. It's an offensive-minded coach here, obviously, and he's going to throw some teams off. He's got that game plan factor, coming from Texas Tech, being a spread offense. You're going to see more receivers on the field for the Cardinals than any other team, and that's really going to throw teams off. And the main reason is because there is a lot of veteran players, obviously, that are very good on the defense side of the ball, but the veteran coaches, you're starting to see more and more younger college style offensive coaches, but for the most part, we're playing musical coaches with the same old defensive coaches, and there's a lot of good ones. So, don't get me wrong here, a lot of good ones, but these guys are more prepared from what they've seen in the past, and that really isn't, this Cardinals type of offense. So Kingsbury will be a very solid offensive option. You kind of go back to Texas Tech, people kind of get on him, I guess, maybe got on the Cardinals higher because he wasn't that successful at Texas Tech, but whole different game. It's still a game of football, but it's everything is totally different. Texas Tech struggled not because of their offense, not because of Kingsbury's offense, because of their recruiting on the defensive side of the ball, which is really nothing the same as what his job here is in the NFL with the Arizona Cardinals. So I think that's where people go wrong with those type of statements. So definitely one creeping up. Number 10 is going to be Frank Reich of the Colts. Maybe not as good of an outing this past year than the year before, his first year as a head coach. Obviously Jacoby Brissett being in there could affect that as well. I just thought, it was a pretty unique, clever play calling offense, mainly the play calling 2 years ago. And last year I really wasn't thrilled with it. I always have that rule. Number one rule of play calling, just an offense in general, is be unpredictable, and they were that 2 years ago, and they were not that last year. I thought they were pretty predictable last year, especially down the stretch of the season when you kind of expect them to kind of get adjusted, get a feel for Jacoby Brissett, this offense. It was just too predictable when they were running the ball, when they're throwing the ball, unlike a year ago. So, and we see it every year, all the time. The new coaches we hype up. Frank Reich. There's several of them. Based off their first year, they look so good, and all of a sudden they kind of get figured out a little bit. So you have to be a great play caller along with the great playbook. But I still like Frank Reich here. Maybe we're not all as high on him as we were 2 years ago, but we get Phillip Rivers, who he's familiar with there in the Colts offense. I think that kind of bumps him back up to maybe closer to the year before. So we'll see. Number 9 is going to be Mike McCarthy, so maybe a little bold, but I really don't think so. Obviously, I put him in here. I think he'll have success with the Cowboys this year, obviously, with their offense. The head coach being an offensive-minded coach here. We go back to the Packers, when he had extreme success, not just, regular success, really good success, high-powered offense, Aaron Rodgers in his prime, Aaron Rodgers healthy, but a lot of weapons around him. A lot of weapons, some really good receiver units. The last few years during the struggle, we've seen somewhat here and there injured Aaron Rodgers, and they just really weren't giving him the talent around him as they used to have. So I think that's why people get on him a little bit. But now he goes to the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott still trying to enter his prime. He'll get there. He's still a young quarterback with a pretty good amount of experience for his age. And then you have obviously a pretty good running back room with Zeke and Tony Pollard, and then a really good receiver room now. And you can kind of feel that they allowed McCarthy to be involved, and Jerry Jones, that is, probably one of the more stubborn owners / GMs. They allowed Mike McCarthy to be involved in the draft. Why? Because when he was with Green Bay, they had the talent, they had the success, and now he's involved with the draft class this year, his first year, and it's incomplete, I guess, so far, but it feels like a pretty good draft. They add CeeDee Lamb to that already really good receiving unit there. So I expect Mike McCarthy to be a darn good offensive coach, and it's an upgrade for sure from Jason Garrett, of course. So definitely don't want one to look a sleeper, I guess, to look out for, because most people may not consider him top 10. Number 8 is going to be Josh McDaniels, in probably a better rank than this. Before this year, but I guess what kind of weighs him down a little bit is maybe the talent around them, which will affect these guys. And he is the offense coordinator of the Patriots, so we see an OC in here rather than a head coach making the list at number 8, and we'll see possibly more of those as we go along. But McDaniels, yeah, so no more Tom Brady, because we know Tom Brady kind of was a big piece of the play calling. Understatement maybe. So we'll see how this affects him. We know he's a good play caller. We know he's a good coach, but I think maybe get knocked down a little bit because, Tom Brady isn't there. The talent maybe isn't there, but that doesn't change the fact that he's a really good coach, really good play caller. Number 7 is going to be a head coach, Sean McVay. I think most people may put him a little higher on their list. Another one of those guys. His first year, they're looking great, and everyone's really hyping him up. It's the playbook. The playbook was phenomenal, unpredictable, and it's a little different than what we've seen. He's been coaching around the NFL for some time, but he kind of brought his own philosophy in there, and it worked. It worked out. And then this past year, it started to get predictable a little bit. People started to figure it out, and again, I like the playbook. I still like the playbook a lot. His playbook. Play calling could be a little better. Again, they got predictable at times. There's times where I feel like he gambles a bit. There'll be the third in 4 or 5, and he'll run the ball, and that's kind of when he chooses to be unpredictable. But it's just really not the best choices there. So now we see some changes. The offensive line didn't help him last year, but now Todd Gurley's out of there, which he trusted a bunch. But you have Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson taken away, more athletic backs there. So we'll see how that works out for them. It could definitely be good for them in Sean McVay here. Number 6 is going to be Greg Roman. So we see an offensive coordinator at number 6 on the list. Pretty impressive. Greg Roman stepped up as the offensive coordinator for the Ravens this past year, and that's a good look for him. And you may say, well, Lamar Jackson kind of carried him. You should be able to thrive. With Lamar, anybody should be able to thrive with Lamar Jackson. You just let him do his thing. And part of that could be true. I mean, the guy is a crazy talent, athlete. But you kind of backtrack. Remember, the Ravens put Lamar Jackson in the second half of the season in 2018, and they made the playoffs. Get into the playoffs, and, you kind of get they really, bottom line is they weren't running a Lamar Jackson offense, and Greg Roman was not the offensive coordinator then. It was very confusing, and if you remember, the fans were booing. I don't know what the percentage of fans were booing Lamar Jackson specifically. What percentage was booing maybe the play calling, the coaching staff, the team in general? To me, I was booing the play calling for sure. They were kind of going back to that Joe Flacco offense with Lamar Jackson. It was in no way Lamar Jackson's fault. So then Greg Roman, they feel like his philosophy, what he wants to bring, kind of matches. We're going to promote this guy, and it does. You have to call the right offense for not only Lamar Jackson. We see the offensive line start to thrive as well, that running back room. He knew what pieces he needed. They went and got Mark Ingram. So I think he is the perfect fit for that offense, what his philosophy is for that offense, and it worked out this year, one of the best teams in football. So Greg Roman possibly could be getting a head coaching job in the near future. I think other teams could worry because maybe they don't have that style quarterback of Lamar Jackson. But Roman's been around for some time, too, so that's a little bit of an adjustment for him. Just got a great offensive mind, and be able to adjust like that depending on your quarterback, the style of quarterback. Number 5 is going to be a head coach. Going to go with Bruce Arians. And Byron Leftwich is pretty involved. Arians kind of let him be more involved than maybe you expected last year. But Arians' offense was definitely an upgrade for the Buccaneers. We see the improvements of Chris Godwin. And, we've seen him improve as a player for sure, but a lot of it is due to Bruce Arians' offense. Chris Godwin kind of being that new school, bigger body type of slot receiver, just absolutely thrives. Now they add Tom Brady. It's a perfect fit there. So I expect big things from Arians Leftwich in this offense. So and we've seen the success from Arians in the past, being with the Steelers, running things there. So I thought that was a no-brainer there. Number 4 is going to be Doug Pederson of the Eagles. Obviously a great offensive mind. What really stands out is still that Super Bowl. Even though we're ranking for this year, being able to adjust with the quarterback adjustment, with the changing quarterbacks, and that was the ultimate impressive point for Doug Pederson. He does get creative, though. He does, the offense deals with all kinds of injuries, and he still keeps pushing through, and he still gets, the points up on the board for the team as well. It's a creative offense. I like that he likes to take risks. I don't want to play caller that does not want to take any risks. Sometimes a little out there, the 2-point conversion sometimes. I love going for the 2-point, the 2 points instead of the 1, especially since the extra point's not a free point anymore. I love that, but there's some times where I feel like I would, me personally, just my opinion, I would go for it, he kicks it, and sometimes I would definitely kick it and he goes for it. Just trying to put games away, though, and you could definitely respect that, especially the unique play calling, what he can do with the different quarterbacks as well, and they're bringing another one in Hurts, too, so that's going to be pretty cool to see. But yeah, just the injuries and the constant changes and him able to keep it fresh and unique definitely gets him in the top 5. Maybe if it was fresh after that Super Bowl win, maybe number 1. So going for 2020, definitely the top 5. So number 3 is going to be Sean Payton. What I like about Sean Payton is it feels like, every team needs change to kind of, pretty big change to kind of keep everything fresh and keep it unpredictable and keep it unique because it's just so hard to do it otherwise. But Sean Payton's managed to do that. It just feels like, they added some guys here and there. Michael Thomas and Kamara, fairly new players, but for the most part, it's been the same offense for some time, but he manages to keep it dominant. Breeze, maybe not the same as he was a few years ago. He manages to keep the play calling fresh, unpredictable, and makes them one of the better teams throughout every season. So that is the most impressive part. And now you see him throwing in like the Taysom Hill factors, those types of plays. So he's kind of bringing some uniqueness to his offense that's worked for him. So a guy that doesn't want to go away from what works, but then has that challenge of kind of keeping it fresh, unpredictable, and he's able to do that. So that's kind of the impressive part there. They definitely need to get over that hump in the playoffs, though. The domination in the regular season is absolutely outstanding for them. Number 2 is going to be Kyle Shanahan. Could be one of those, the newer guys that starts to get figured out. We saw it maybe in the second half of the Super Bowl. People weren't thrilled with this play calling. Stuff started to get predictable, but he was just so unpredictable throughout that entire year. Like, you just did not know what's coming with you, coming at you. I sit there, I watch every single game, and I'm usually pretty good. This play's going to be a run. This is definitely a pass. I'm looking for play action here. And the Niners, Shanahan and the Niners last year, it was just so unpredictable. They had you fooled. They almost aligned like it was just for sure an outside zone run, and they're throwing. They're just throwing. That's when they're going with their deep shots, so they're getting creative with Deebo Samuel. It was just anything can be thrown at you. Wish a little bit of better game for him in the Super Bowl, obviously, but especially if anybody that loses in that type of game, you definitely wish that. But an outstanding year. Well deserving of the contract. I don't see any reason for him to, not to have that similar success in terms of the unpredictability and whatnot there. Number 1 is got to be Andy Reid for me, though, along with Eric Bieniemy as well. He does a fantastic job. He's kind of getting more involved every single year, so he possibly can get a head coaching job as well. But Andy Reid, another one where you could say, well, they have the best player in football, Patrick Mahomes, and that's true. That helps, but Andy Reid is responsible for grooming this guy. And you remember, Mahomes injured at times last year. They're able to win with Matt Moore here and there, and Mahomes kind of struggled in the first half of that Super Bowl game, and they really, it just doesn't take Mahomes by himself to kind of get himself out of that. There was some fantastic play calling. The Niners absolutely dominant with their cover 3, the best cover 3 in football last year, and how you beat that is a flood. Really, you got to flood one side, and we saw that big. Third and long to Tyreek Hill. and that's exactly what they did there. So the game plan worked exactly to where it was planned in that Super Bowl game. They didn't want to. They weren't going for the kill early in the game. They were saving those types of things. They didn't plan for Mahomes to somewhat struggle early on, but the game plan, the play calling, know how to execute against different coverages, knowing how to groom players, knew exactly what to do with Alex Smith and then Patrick Mahomes, of course. I think they played that perfectly. Fresh off the Super Bowl, there is really no reason that he shouldn't be one right now. So that is why Andy Reid comes in at number 1. So let me know your guys' rankings, again, including head coaches, offense coordinators here. So we actually seen some offensive coordinators who aren't maybe yet head coaches. So maybe those guys, can become head coaches, and we'll see. This coaching changes every year, so guys can step up. There's some guys that just missed the cut that could step up this year. So a lot of guys we can talk about either on Twitter or in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. Please smash that like button. We'll do a defensive one as well. That's going to do it for this one, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.